Outer Wilds is a game about knowledge. The only thing that gates progression is what we don't know. And because of this, it can never be experienced again. The game takes place in a solar system, where every 22 minutes, the sun explodes and resets us back to the beginning. That's the setup. We're given no real objective, no quest markers, just explore space. And although there are worlds of secrets out there, we're free to find them in any order, or even dart between them. The most important secrets are well hidden from accidental discovery. In a talk at Full Indie Summit, director Alex Beecham talks about what he calls curiosities. A curiosity in Outer Wilds answers a major question about our universe, and is hidden in a secret or dangerous location that can only be reached with specific knowledge. He elaborates that during development, the goal was to have each curiosity hidden by 3 clues. The clues would point to each other, as well as the curiosity itself. Then each of the curiosities would work together to get us to the end of the game. In practice, it didn't really end up this way, but it's pretty close. While there are 4 curiosities in the game, triggering the end of Outer Wilds only needs a combination of 3. I tend to think of them as where we are, what we know, and what we have. The objective of the game, if there even is one, is to get to the eye of the universe. We'll get there by using the Nomai vessel at the heart of Dark Bramble, but we'll need to know the coordinates to get there from the probe tracking module at the center of Giant's Deep. And the vessel has long lost power, so we'll need an advanced warp core, which we can remove from the Ash Twin project, the very thing keeping us alive beyond each 22-minute reset. The sense of dread that I felt as I made the journey from the Hourglass Twins with the warp core to the ship in Dark Bramble was more visceral to me than any horror game that I've ever played. It was a journey that I had previously made successfully and unsuccessfully dozens of times, and I felt the weight of the universe on my shoulders. But this video isn't about this moment, or even what comes after it. This video is about how we got here, about the curiosities we encountered along the way. This video is about the journey through Outer Wilds. The Nomai, as a species, are naturally inquisitive and wonderfully creative. They're scientists, and they have a deep love for the fellow living beings that they encounter. In a documentary by Nothing Ventured, Outer Wilds writer Kelsey Beecham describes them as a bunch of little kids. Unlike ancient advanced civilizations of many other stories, the Nomai are people. They're individuals. Poke is a nervous perfectionist who apprenticed with Anona, the inventor of warp travel. Thatch is the clan's envoy, who shares knowledge with other clans during the Nomai festival. These are just 2 of the dozens of named Nomai in Outer Wilds. And though the timeline is a little fuzzy, there are certainly things that we do know. We know the clan that first came to our solar system. It was Eskel's. We know that Eskel's clan unexpectedly discovered a signal that predates the universe. We know that he feared the signal would disappear as quickly as it came, and despite concerns from some of his crew, at least to alert other clans of where they were going, we know Eskel ordered his clan to activate the warp. And we know that what awaited them was catastrophe.
This is Eskel's vessel. Something went badly wrong during our warp, and our vessel is mortally wounded. We need help as quickly as possible. Our vessel appears to have... Has it fused with the local environment somehow? There are vines that are now part of the vessel. It's been torn apart from the inside itself. We are abandoning our vessel. Any Nomai clans or spaceflight-capable species receiving this message, I implore you. We need your help. Is this broken? Can anyone hear me? Our vessel is dying. We need immediate assistance.
Weeds are frustrating. Gardeners call them a plant in the wrong place, and no weed was ever in such a wrong place than the dark bramble seed occupying the same space where the Nomai vessel had warped to. The seed shattered, and immediately grew in impossible ways. The vessel was quickly rendered useless, and became mortally wounded. The Nomai fled to the escape pods, and 3 were able to shoot from the vessel successfully. Escape Pod 1 broke free of the bramble and made its way to Brittle Hollow. These Nomai would take refuge from the meteors of the volcanic moon impacting the world's surface. They founded the Hanging City closer to the black hole at the center of their world. Escape Pod 2 would shoot closer to the sun and impact on the hourglass twin of Ember. They would scramble beneath the cave system and create the Sunless City. While these groups on Brittle Hollow and Ember Twin would live on to raise new Nomai born in this solar system, recreate space travel, and make new discoveries about the universe, the Nomai in Escape Pod 3 weren't as fortunate. Dark Bramble is an impossible planet. It distorts space inside of it, and it contains monstrous anglerfish that attack at the slightest detection of an intruder. Escape Pod 3 was running out of air and had to make it back to the main vessel, but somehow 2 identical signals appeared to identify its location. With nothing more to go on, they picked one of the signals. They had sadly chosen poorly, and the Nomai aboard Escape Pod 3 perished slowly as their life support systems lost functionality. Our journey to the Nomai vessel takes us deep inside Dark Bramble. While it is possible to stumble upon the ship, it is unlikely. Many of the rooms of Dark Bramble loop back on themselves, and the anglerfish make short work of new explorers. Players are naturally drawn to the light at the nest of the anglerfish, but there isn't too much there. Now, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to guess that the anglerfish are blind and movement is what alerts them to us. But if the player needs that knowledge, it can be found on Ember Twin, through its own puzzle to get to the anglerfish fossil there. There's references to this specifically on Brittle Hollow as a hypothesis to avoid the anglerfish entirely. As for the vessel, the player may learn that it exists through the murals on Brittle Hollow, but what we're really after is the distress signal for tracking down escape pods. This can be obtained by going to either of the other 2 escape pods with the signal scope. With that, we're able to track down Escape Pod 3 and follow their path back to the vessel. On its own, the vessel is a lifeless husk of its former glory. The empty ship contains some transmissions from present-day Nomai, but not much else. Not unless we had something to power it and a destination to get to. But this is the location where our journey to the Eye begins. The vessel will lay dormant and hidden throughout the Nomai's time in our solar system. Though it's brought up in their debate, we know that the Nomai never returned to Dark Bramble. In the early years, the Nomai focus on survival. 2 disparate groups of Nomai crashing worlds apart. They know that there are other escape pods as they can hear the distress signal. They long for each other and the reunification of their clan.
We can hear the other escape pods' distress signals, which gives me hope. Foley, are you still here? I'm unsure how to survive this place without you. I'm unsure how to be me without you. Is the hardest part of this tragedy not knowing who we may have lost? Or will the hardest part come later, when we learn? Be well, Aunt Melloray. We sacrificed too much arriving here. I will not allow our clan's greatest loss to be in vain.
But the 2 groups not only survive, they thrive. They create homes and families and schools. The black hole below the Hanging City becomes a valuable resource. The sand burying the Sunless City is well understood and monitored. Over time, they recreate technology they thought they would have lost forever and are able to reunite. Life goes on. Curiosity is at the heart of every Nomai, and the eye of the universe that brought the clan to this system is still out there. But with only the means to travel within this solar system, the Nomai focus their attention on closer mysteries, like a moon that seems to disappear and reappear in orbit of every planet orbiting this sun. This quantum moon eventually becomes a rite of passage for the Nomai. Armed with the rules of quantum behavior, a Nomai journeys to the moon's north pole, and while on the moon, force it to move to its 6th location, believed to be in orbit at the eye of the universe itself. Here Nomai see that all their hardship was not in vain, and younger Nomai, who did not personally know what their clan once was and all that they've lost, could see the goal that united them all. But that goal still seems impossible to reach. A common theory was that the eye of the universe wasn't stable to just one location, a trait replicated by the quantum moon. While multiple devices are built to track it down, they all end in failure. But now the Nomai know one important thing, and Mallow comes up with a unique idea.
We know what the eye looks like thanks to the quantum moon. So what if we try to find the eye visually instead? Let's send out a probe. We need to build a probe launching mechanism to cover those long distances quickly. A cannon in orbit around a celestial body would circumvent the need to escape gravity's pull. Yes! Let's build the cannon in orbit around Giant's Deep.
And so the Nomai build an orbital probe cannon in orbit of Giant's Deep. As parts of the cannon are completed, they're launched into space using the cyclones native to that planet. During construction, one of the parts is lost to the depths of the ocean, and the Nomai determine that some cyclones actually push material below the high-speed currents. Regardless of this setback, the orbital probe cannon is complete without additional incident. The orbital probe cannon is a giant neon sign calling out to players. At the start of every loop, we witness an explosion above us in the night sky. It's one of the few things we are absolutely guaranteed to see. The orbital probe cannon itself consists of 3 modules. The control module informs us that it received instructions to fire at a random coordinate, and it did so successfully. It also gives us diagnostics for the cannon. The launch module and probe tracking module are no longer connected. Luckily, the launch module is still orbiting with the rest of the cannon, and is only a quick spacewalk away. Inside, there's a reference to the fact that firing the cannon will likely cause it to explode, something we've now witnessed firsthand. The Nomai do not seem to believe this is a problem, as the cannon only needs to fire once. While the probe tracking module is missing, clever players may be able to discern that it's underwater by using the projection stone. It's not a far leap to guess where that is when the cannon orbits a water planet. The hard part will be getting to it. Our only lead so far is to go to the construction yard on Giant's Deep, where the orbital probe cannon was created. There we can find the story of the parts that flew beneath the ocean, and a lead to the Southern Observatory on Brittle Hollow, where the phenomenon is explained. The text also helpfully indicates that the path to the Southern Observatory starts at the equator, as flying directly to the Southern Observatory prevents us from entering. In the observatory, we learn that while most cyclones on Giant's Deep push things into space, there are rare cyclones that spin in the opposite direction and suck things beneath the rapid currents. Cassava even asks why Kanoi couldn't explain this over the phone, and the answer is because then you wouldn't get to see these really cool models. Beneath the water of Giant's Deep, we find a dome of electricity surrounded by jellyfish. And now we need one more critical piece of information. If you spoke with Feldspar in Dark Bramble, he'll tell you to explore a specific area, which will lead you to a jellyfish. Here you can learn that the jellyfish will insulate you from electricity. Hiding in the jellyfish, we're taken further into the depths, to the core of Giant's Deep. Eventually we can find the probe tracking module, and there we can see many visuals, including the one for a very important probe. For this probe was able to visually identify its target, and it sent the coordinates back to the probe tracking module. If we only had the means to get there, we now know the location of the Eye of the Universe. Something doesn't make sense. How is it possible to find the Eye of the Universe with just one probe?
We know what the eye looks like thanks to the quantum moon. So what if we try to find the eye visually instead? Let's send out a probe. Mallow's idea is clever, but we have no idea where the eye is in relation to here. The probability of launching a probe in the correct direction would be absurdly small. I believe I have a solution for that problem. Have you spoken with Raimi and Pi about the technology they're developing?
To understand what Raimi and Pi are developing, we have to think about what life is like above a black hole. The Nomai who live on Brittle Hollow have to constantly watch their step, otherwise be hurtled out into the depths of space. Best case scenario, this is an inconvenience, but worst case, it's lethal. So designs are created for a white hole station. A way to return to Brittle Hollow should clumsy Nomai fall through the void. But something happens the Nomai do not expect.
To our friends on Brittle Hollow! I just warped here from the White Hole Station on the other side of Brittle Hollow's black hole. Our design worked! We've successfully recreated warp travel! I don't know how close it is to Anona's original design, but as long as what we've built works, then I'm delighted. I knew we could do it. Cassava, I hope you're reading this. Wait, this can't be correct. Clary, have you seen these readings? If they were accurate, they would violate causality. There must be an equipment error somewhere. I'm returning to the White Hole Station. If you and Root meet me there, we can run a full diagnostic and hopefully locate the problem. Raimi and I reviewed the records you sent, Poke, and they appear to show Nomai are arriving at the warp receiver on Brittle Hollow slightly before departing from the White Hole Station. As I've already told Raimi, these measurements can't be accurate. How can a Nomai arrive on Brittle Hollow before he or she ever stepped into the teleporter? The implications are absurd. I don't disagree. It would mean I've inadvertently broken several fundamental theories regarding this universe. We would have to reconsider all of our beliefs about the nature of time. Yes, I hope so too. Poke, as Pi is confident the reading is inaccurate, she's kindly helping me attempt to recreate this phenomenon at the High Energy Lab. We're designing an experiment to take more data.
Nomai arrived back on Brittle Hollow before they left the White Hole Station. If the readings were true, Poke had accidentally invented time travel, but the Nomai don't jump to conclusions. And Raimi and Pi continue the investigation at the High Energy Lab on Ember Twin, until one day.
An update. Poke, the High Energy Lab is in the canyon on Ember Twin's equator. Come here at once. You need to see this.
It's a rousing success. Furthermore, Raimi and Pi prove that with additional power, they can increase the time dilation and are able to do so until the phenomenon is visible to the naked eye. It's a promising new technology that's discovered at just the right time. Hypothetically, the Nomai can send a probe into space in a random direction to identify the eye of the universe, and then send the data back in time. Work begins immediately on what will become the Ash Twin project. Towers based on the White Hole Station are constructed on Ash Twin to allow speedy travel between planets. This allows many Nomai to work on the Ash Twin project's many components. We've already discussed the orbital probe cannon, which would launch its probe in a random direction at the start of each loop. The probe would be able to visually identify the eye of the universe from the information gathered from the quantum moon. The Sun Station would create the necessary power for the Ash Twin project by causing the sun at the center of the solar system to go supernova. Meanwhile, memory statues created on Giant's Deep would be able to send a being's memory back in time. They could also be used to send the necessary data from the probe cannon. And finally, the Ash Twin project itself, which would be powered by a warp core more advanced than any previously created in this solar system. Combined, the system would repeatedly cause the sun to supernova, which would send a signal back in time to fire the probe. This would repeat until the probe found the eye of the universe, and the Nomai would be blissfully unaware of how many cycles had been completed until the eye was found, or the failsafe was triggered by an equipment malfunction. When the day finally comes to test the project in its complete form, the Sun Station fires its burst into the sun and nothing. No supernova, no power for the Ash Twin project, nothing happens.
These words are difficult to write. The Sun Station did not work. However, this is the closest we've ever been. The Ash Twin project is theoretically sound, and we were only unable to power it. Perhaps there is another way.
And that's where the Ash Twin project is left. Not long after the Nomai perish suddenly, we have to wait for evolution to take its course, and for the Hearthians to begin their space exploration. By coincidence, we are also at the natural heat death of the universe, and the sun has gone supernova on its own. We are next to a statue when it activates, and 9,318,054 iterations later, we become aware of the time loop that we've been stuck in. The Ash Twin project is everywhere. The masks made on Giant's Deep, the orbital probe cannon, the Sun Station, material mined from Timberhearth to shield it inside of Ash Twin. Regardless of where we first see mention of the Ash Twin project, it will almost certainly not be the last. It's not a stretch by any imagination to assume that Ash Twin project is located on Ash Twin, but it's sealed shut, and the only way to access it is through the warp tower when Ember Twin is above it. Unfortunately, that is also the exact time when a mountain of sand is pouring away from Ash Twin. The journey to the Ash Twin project for players has few hints and requires some intuition to unravel. For the most part, we can follow the same narrative as the Nomai. Falling through the black hole of Brittle Hollow is not exactly an uncommon occurrence. This puts us right at the White Hole Station, which not only shows us how the warp towers will work, but also makes us aware of the impossibility of our arrival time. The Nomai make it clear they will investigate more at the High Energy Lab. Going to the High Energy Lab, we find it's locked, but there's also handy instructions telling us to come in through the sunken city. There we can play with the time dilation ourselves. But more importantly, we get a reference to point us in the direction of the Ash Twin Towers and the Black Hole Forge. The Black Hole Forge is tricky, as it requires activating a switch on Brittle Hollow before using the warp on Ash Twin, but it provides a very interesting detail, that the Hourglass Twins function as a single astral body with a shared alignment point in between them. This is what allows us into the Ash Twin project, because if Ember Twin is above Ash Twin, we can use the warp pad on Ash Twin to go to its core. And here we can remove the advanced warp core that keeps this project running. Here we can shut off the machine that, in a way, is all that's keeping us alive in these last 22 minutes of our existence. But it's also the warp core that can bring the Vessel of Dark Bramble to life and allow us to explore the Eye of the Universe. I remember my first time through Outer Wilds, how I felt loneliness and fear and love. I remember how clever I felt when I thought I had discovered some secret of the universe, and how stupid I felt when what I attempted didn't work. But none of those feelings are there anymore. Just the memory of what was. It's hard to replay this game. I would argue that you can't. And this video is just the barest bones to reach the Eye of the Universe. There's so much that hasn't been said here. The details and exploration required to reach the Quantum Moon for ourselves, the Nomai who were barely mentioned, the Interloper, and the horrors that it brought to our solar system. And the path that all of us take to reach the end of this game certainly wasn't this simple, if you can even call a summary of this length simple. It's incredibly common to receive all of this knowledge in a jumbled heap mess that we have to sort out for ourselves. The struggles we face when going through Outer Wilds are shared struggles with the Nomai. Our path mimics theirs. And though no playthrough of this beautiful game would ever be this linear, the journey is not easily forgotten. Outer Wilds is a game without skill points, without levels, without even a clearly specified goal. Every 22 minutes, I started at the same spot I began the game at. The last loop is the same as the first, but one thing grows and gains experience. One thing evolves and learns. One thing changed. Me.